What's up, ASL coaches and fans, and welcome to week 12 of the Power Rankings. I'm Ian, and I'm joined with Hutch. Say hello.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And without further ado, let's just jump right into number 14. We have a difference here. You've got Washington Whalers as usual. Why don't you talk about that?
Alright, so I have Cam down here. Although he played pretty well against Keister, in my opinion, he had a nice plan. I believe he set up light screens and then tried to win with a Calm Mine Rock Polish Landers. I liked the plan there. But bottom line, he has one win, and I've really seen improvement from Cam over the past couple of weeks. And I believe he brought Specs Keldeo, which was a great breaker. But it's just you gotta pick up wins, and I know he's probably just trying to experiment some things, and for the next season, just to see how much fun he can have with his team, maybe try out things for the consolation bracket. But Cam is just on the bottom surely because of his record.
Yeah, I felt the need to bump him up this time just because of how much he's been picking up the pace here, even though it is way too late for him to do that. He has been losing, but the games have been much closer and looking way more winnable for him. Like, a lot of his older games, it didn't look like there was a single spot where he could win. But in these ones, it's looking like he's holding command of the game in certain sections. He isn't making the same over-predicts as he usually is, and he's just playing a lot safer. If he keeps up this level of play, he may actually start to collect some wins in the consolation bracket, I feel. So I dropped Shadow below him this time because Shadow didn't do very well this week. No way to sugarcoat it. He got 6-0'd by essentially 2 Pokemon. That's just you gotta. I know he's just trying to have some fun with some wacky ideas now that he's out of the playoffs, but you gotta prep to beat a Tapu Fini and a Doublade. If the other team has a Tapu Fini, you should bring at least something to be able to kill the Tapu Fini. At least I feel. You can't get 6-0'd like that. And technically, because Shadow did take over a team, he also only has one win. So I felt like it was fair to bump Cam up over him this time at least.
Yeah, fair enough, and I've Shadow at the 13 spot. Just because I feel like Static, like we said about Cam, he's had a lot more winnable games than Shadow. And yeah, Shadow's been trying to have fun with some sets, but it's really not enjoyable and doesn't make us want to move him up if he's just bringing these wacky sets and not hoping to do anything. Like the point of memeing out with a team is like bringing a team that can win but has like some weird sets. And I just really never saw a win con from him throughout the match.
Yeah. So at number 12, we both have Static. Why don't you talk about that?
Alright, so I put Static at 12, simply because the people above him played better. Like Malone got a huge win over TCP. We'll talk about that when we get there. And Static's just overall, he's had a better record than Cam, and he's just played better than Shadow. So I mean, it speaks for himself in terms of the play. And it's not like he's been getting killed as of late. I mean, he only lost 3-0 to Suze, which isn't bad since Suzy is a potential playoff team. And yeah, hopefully Static can finish out the season with like some fun matches and hopefully see him do well in the consolation bracket.
Yeah, he does technically have lower differential than Shadow by 3, but he also got 6-0'd 3 times in a row at the beginning of the season. Since then, he's picked up his game a bit. Not enough to really move him any higher. He's all 3 of these people are quite a fair ways away from the rest of the people above him. But, it is what it is. He's got to pick up his slack again if he really wants to make a run in consolation bracket. At 11, we have Malone, and like you said, he picked up a massive upset win versus TCP, a top 3 coach in this season, which is really impressive, and in the same week, he was unfortunately eliminated from playoff contention. It's super sad to see that after picking up such a big win, you do get eliminated, and unfortunately, because he is one of the only 4 coaches who are eliminated, I obviously can't place him above, but it's definitely showing that he's following through with his better play. He made like a lot of ballsy plays that game, and they all worked out because he recognized the skill level of his opponent and was able to play to that level really effectively, and it's great to see that.
Yeah, it really sucks to see Malone get eliminated after playing so phenomenally. And this is one of the weeks where I've actually seen Malone play Cresselia like almost perfectly. I mean, it was sitting there to end the game. And this is Malone's best season in the ASL yet. His previous best season was 4-9 in season 2, if I'm not mistaken. So he's definitely making improvement, which you can only see the improvement and hope he does better in the future to start off the season. Because if he played like this at the beginning of the season, he would be a round 6-6 right now instead of the 5-7, which he would have a decent shot at playoffs. It's just unfortunate that he started his run so late. But yeah, using Crest to its full potential and beating down TCP, as TCP could only beat Cresselia with his Zoroark. So Malone knew that. He got rid of the Zoroark, and then Cresselia just sat there for the rest of the game. So props to Malone, but it's unfortunate that you just got eliminated from the playoffs, and everyone above you is still in playoff contention.
Yeah, so at number 10, we both have TJ, who's technically still in the playoffs, but he's like really skirting the line here. He's got the lowest differential out of all of the playoff contending teams, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so he needs some really big swing matches to actually have a shot here. He's had some extremely up and down times throughout the entire season. Probably one of the most fluctuating coaches on this list. His highs are high, but damn, his lows are really low. And losing all 6 Pokemon to Cobalion, like that's the biggest sweep any Pokemon's had, if I'm not mistaken. And you just got to prep better than that. You can't lose every single Pokemon to one thing once it sets up. You got to have some kind of contingency in place, and he didn't seem to have that. Usually he has some of the best prep in the league, I feel, but we just didn't see it.
Yeah, his prep is absolutely amazing. And by the way, Ian, the Arcane Arcanines, has the lowest differential of the 6-6 teams.
Oh,
But
my bad.
um, his prep is usually phenomenal, and the fact that Cobalion set up one Swords Dance, I believe, and that was it, it's just really surprising to see. Cobalion looks really good against his team on paper, I can understand that, but you have to find ways to work around it. And getting 4-0'd at this stage in the season, when you're fighting for that last playoff spot, it puts you way behind. And although, like I said, Ian has the worst differential out of the 6-6 coaches, it basically these 4 goes to the quality of the wins this week that sets them up into better position for a playoff run. So TJ losing 4-0 just by a Cobalion is definitely not something you are going to see often from him.
Yeah, so at number 9, we also both have Susie, who lost against you. So how do you feel that game went?
Um, Suzy never really was in control of the match. He had a nice Endeavor Darmanitan. It really caught me off guard. He played with Thunder Waves a bit. He just never really looked like he had a win con. I mean, he brought in Dodrio way too late. I believe it was Choice Scarf, if it makes the most sense. And he brought it in when there was no chance of it winning. He should have brought it in to break earlier in the match, and he didn't really seem like he knew what he was doing. And I know he only got one playtest, and he was trying to get more playtests for himself, but the quality of prep just simply wasn't there, and he never really played like he was in it to win it.
Yeah, like you said, the game was quite in your favor the entire time, outside of like once again the Endeavor prep and the Thunder Waves did make things a little bit spicy there, but you controlled the game so well, especially with all those hazards on his side. Pokemon were taking like 40% every single time they switched in, and he just didn't have any way to get rid of it and get momentum back, which once again, fairly poor prep for him against a team with Ferrothorn. He played recklessly with his Sylveon and not recklessly enough with his Dodrio, and you just took advantage of his lack of control in that game and beat him out. He technically can make playoffs, but once again, 7-6, not the most likely. He's relying on the teams above to be losing more than controlling his own fate, and obviously that's not a position you want to be in. So at number 8, we have a difference again. I have Keister and you have Ian. I just put Keister here below Ian, even though he's got a lot higher differential. He only won against like the lowest coach in the standings. It's not a feat that's going to bump you up too much for me. I do think he's probably the most likely team to make it out of the 7-6s because he's got that super high differential. He doesn't need like the massive swing wins and losses to get it. but his odds are still pretty low, honestly. It's yeah, so I placed Ian above him for that.
Yeah, so instead of going with the quality of wins this week, I decided to go with playoff odds. So Ian and Keister both won this week, improving themselves to 6-6. But I put Ian at the number 8 just since his differential is low enough to the point where he really has to get a huge win or Marin has to get a huge loss. And it's just really difficult for him to keep the ball rolling. Although he has a good amount of momentum after getting that nice win over TJ, he just needs so much out of static to just absolutely beat the crap out of Marin in their game.
Yeah, and while I do agree with your analysis that Keister has got the higher chance of making playoffs, I think that picking up a win against another playoff contending team is just so big, both for his confidence and also for controlling his own fate. And doing it in such a dominative fashion to boot is just like so nice for him. Even though probably not going to make playoffs, like I don't think any of these teams will at this point. It's like got a lot of momentum going forward into the consolation bracket, and I think he's probably the front runner to win that, which is why I decided to place him above Keister, because at least at this point I've probably dismissed their chances for playoffs.
Yeah, so I have Keister at the number 7, and basically just because he has the better odds of winning, like he can win like 3-0 and Marin can lose like 1-0 or something, and then he gets in. It's a really good chance for Keister to get in, only if Marin loses. Marin has to lose, or Marin can literally eliminate all 4 teams that you see on your screen. So that game has a ton of implications, and the fact that Marin is playing static it's unfortunate to see that like 4 of these teams are going to be in the consolation bracket, which these 4 teams played really well throughout the season. But the ASL's gotten more competitive, and people got to step their game up if they want to be in the playoffs. Keister did pick up a nice 3-0 victory, playing around that Calm Mind Landorus with screens. So he's definitely giving himself a better shot than anyone else that we've mentioned on this slide. But it's just the fact is Marin has to lose to the 2-10 Intermelodic for them to have chances at playoffs.
Yeah, it's definitely looking grim. At number 6, we're starting to get into the teams that we think are going to make playoffs. I have Cody and you have Marin. Why don't you talk about Marin?
Alright, so I have Marin at number 6 just because he has a lower differential, and there's a better chance for Cody to slip into a higher seed than there is for Marin to slip into a higher seed. Although Cody is playing a tougher opponent in myself, and Marin is playing static, like I've said, it's just the fact that differential is so important, and people sometimes like throw away differential in the beginning of the season and are like, oh, it's not going to matter. It really does matter, and it's showing in this playoff race. And yeah, I just put Marin down there because although his differential is pretty decent, it's not as good as Cody's, so it's going to give Cody a better shot to slip into a higher seed.
Yeah, that makes sense, but the differential gap is only 4, and like you said, Cody does face a harder opponent in you, who's currently 4th on the standings. So, looking at it, one of them, if Cody loses 2-0 and Marin wins 3-0 or vice versa, Marin's going to overtake Cody. And at this point, we haven't really seen Cody take on any of the top coaches. He is undefeated, but he's undefeated against literally the bottom 3 in the standings. That's not. I've heard great things about him, and he's played fantastically so far, but he played fantastically against fairly low caliber opponents, so I could definitely see him potentially losing to Hudge and dropping down the seed.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, fair point. And I just have Cody in here, like I was talking about differential, and yeah, I basically explained it all. He has played perfectly, if you want to call it, since he has a perfect record in the ASL. Not against the greatest of teams, to say the least. So yeah, he's just at 5. He's not any higher.
Yeah, so I put Marin above, as I was saying before, just because he's got that very high chance of getting into the 5th spot. He's also proven himself a little bit more. He's been here for longer, so he's played more games. And while he's lost more games too, he lost games against myself and Keister, which are like two of the higher caliber coaches, I would say, in the league, and one against Brad, who is, as you can see, the second highest right now. So he's proven himself to be capable of taking out the Giants, while Cody hasn't. So I decided to bump him up a little bit here. So we both put Hutch at number 4. Once again, he does have an 8-4 record right now. The only other coach to have that is TCP, who has a much higher differential by like 10 almost. It's
10.
It's a pretty big gap, and it's a gap that Hutch probably can't breach. He needs to pick up a win next week, while TCP needs to lose for him to move any higher. He played this game phenomenally though. Kept a lot of momentum, put a lot of pressure up with hazards, and just showed what he's made of in pretty much taking out of playoff contention, one of the probably favourites to make it in Susie. So yeah, just good job. I don't think you'll move any higher, but you're almost definitely not going to drop either.
Yeah, so although me and TCP are both 8-4, and TCP did lose a big one to Malone, and he's down on a downward slope at the moment, it's just the 10 differential gap is huge. I'm at a plus 16, he's at a plus 26, and that just goes down to quality of wins. TCP has been getting a lot bigger wins, and he actually has a realistic shot to get into the 2 spot. And yes, if he does lose to Anderson and I do beat Cody next week, I will slip into the 3 spot. To end out the season, but I don't control my own destiny in that, and if TCP wins, he gets the 3 or 2 spot, depending on how big his wins are, but I did basically control the entire match against Susie, again, like we've said, all but the Endeavor Darmanitan, and there's really no reason why I don't move from the 4 spot unless I lose to Cody in week 13.
Yeah, so we've both got TCP here, who did lose to Malone pretty convincingly, which was surprising. He brought a bunch of heat sets, quite literally, with the sunny day stuff, which obviously lowered his chances a bit, but still a loss, and it's really, really hurt his chance of getting a bye. Even if he beats Brad now, he still might not get a bye if he only wins by, I think it's 1-0, it might be 2-0, but I'm pretty sure it's 1-0. 2-0. Okay, so yeah, he needs to win 2-0 to secure that second spot, which, Brad's not the easiest opponent to beat at all, let alone beating by a decent margin. So the chance is very real, and this next coming week match is extremely important. But obviously, he's currently got 1 loss more than Brad, so I don't really think we can move him above it.
Yeah, I don't really fault TCP for his match this week. He has no way to beat Kress in general. Rourke is not a reliable way to break a Cresselli. It just doesn't hit hard enough, simply. And then when Malone can pivot out into multiple things on his team, it's just really hard for him to pick up a win. And I don't think it really hurts him to take the 3 spot, because then he won't have to. Well, he wouldn't have to play you anyways. But yeah, I just think that his difference from Anderson is obviously record, in the fact that Anderson has been playing extremely well lately. TCP has not been doing as great on a 2-game losing streak. I don't really know if he was trying to meme this week. If he was, I'm really confused why, because I would definitely take a bye. But if it was strategy, then so be it. But either way, it's just he's sitting at 3rd. He doesn't have as good of a record.
I mean, either way, he has to fight the same opponent in semis if he makes it to semis. It's just that he doesn't get the guaranteed pathway to semis now.
Right.
So it's not quite as big of a deal. So at number 2, we have Brad here. This is a really sad topic for me, honestly. Brad fought me this week, and he has dethroned me. I am now 11-1, no longer undefeated. My streak is dead. He played quite well, gotta say. There were a few questionable plays to me. He hard switched his Mew into my Dragonite and got lucky because I clicked Fly instead of Earthquake, because I didn't have Earthquake. But other than that, impressive stuff. Gotta say, the game in playoffs will be a lot different. I am almost positive. Neither of us wanted to go all out on that prep wise because we don't want to reveal anything that we want to bring in the playoffs. And right now, it's looking very likely that we would both fight for champions here.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy beating an undefeated team, and Anderson did do that. So I can't put him in number one because obviously you still have a much better record by 2 games. But it's just impressive to have beaten an undefeated team. And Anderson has been playing extremely well lately, and all he has to do is beat TCP by any margin, and he's going to lock up that number 2 spot, which I'm sure is exactly what he wants after missing the playoffs last season.
Yeah, so they've actually organized a Tier B game this time, so you will be seeing them go all out, but they just won't be bringing their Tier A stuff so that they don't reveal anything. Sorry if you hear that, guys. It's just hard off that my cat is caught. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna mute myself. You just talk about me.
Okay, I'm sure you'd love to hear that. But so basically you did lose. It's unfortunate, but if you were to get your record broken, I'm sure it's not as bad that you lost to Anderson. I mean, probably besides TCP the most formidable opponent to lose it to. But yeah, either way, still 11-1 is absolutely phenomenal. And even if you lose next week, you're tied for the best record. And if you win next week against Cam, you will have the best record in ASL history. So yeah, I don't really fault you for the loss since it is against Anderson.
Yeah, it's definitely an extremely impressive opponent, and if I was going to lose, which obviously I didn't want to do, Brad would be the person to lose to. Next week is against Cam, like you said, which is the bottom seed. So having secured the top seed already and fighting the bottom seed, it's very likely that I will get the highest record of all time. So obviously can't move top seed down from top seed even though they lost this week. Oh my
Go ahead and wrap it up quick.
So yeah, sorry about that. My cat is very vicious. But thank you guys for watching regardless. Hope to see you next week for week 13 power rankings. It might be a little bit late as I will be overseas, but stay tuned for it anyway.
All right, goodbye, guys.